I'm so delighted to be here with my senior colleagues to really discuss this shift, the security shift in the Nigerian space, what the private sector should be thinking about. We already know the situation in Nigeria. I like to demonstrate a map of Nigeria filled with so many concerns which we go through every day. We go through the issue of safety in our own homes as well. Some of us can't even go to the villages, so obviously the security shift is really glaring in the eye of everyone. For instance, I like to deal with root cause. As an engineer, we always tend to look at the root cause of any situation, which is something we do before we begin solving a problem. It's called root cause analysis. We have various aspects of the security challenge in Nigeria, and I would just like to mention some of the factors that account for security shifts in the Nigerian space. So basically, overpopulation, yes, resulting to increase in crime, and crime for survival, really. Some people are just hungry, as I would say. Inadequate educational facilities. I can give an example in my village. They do not have a primary school that has a roof over its head. So when you have kids who grow up in such an endearing environment, you cannot expect so much from them. And it's really a concern. So we talk about lack of security education at all levels. And we also look at lack of national economic development projections and policies leading to high unemployment. Someone would say unemployment is not a problem, but meet someone who has hunger in their stomach, and you would know that it is a big problem. And in all of it, the totality of the federal security agencies being overstretched. Yes, they are overstretched. Every day we hear happenings in the whole of the country on insecurity, and they're unable to subdue the growing tendencies. Look at the northeast, look at the southeast, look at the Niger Delta region. Niger Delta started many years ago. When the kidnap started from the expatriates, we thought, okay, this is gonna go away. But after the expatriates were exhausted, they went to the big men, so-called, in the society. And 4 years down the line, it was my mom, who is a farmer in the village, was kidnapped in her bedroom. And this is 11 years now, and you can't even go to those villages. So it's really a problem for all of us. So kidnap and hostage taking both, of both foreign and Nigerian nationals is a very big concern for us as a country. And in recent times, we have also witnessed the uprising of paramilitary outfits like the Omotekun, the Ebubeagu, I call them, and the rest, because really security is vital to everybody. Your survival is dependent on security. Security is actually rated second after food and shelter. You need security to have peace of mind. We're gradually moving from federal policing into state policing, and that's the reality of it. And also, the provision of security is no longer the sole responsibility of federal government like we see it in the past. Federal government would, it's like the municipal, we pay taxes and the government provides us security, and some clients also pay fees, and the private security firms provides them with security. And you see more and more private individuals engaging security services as it were. And make no mistake about the paramilitary outfits that have come. And I want to tell everybody that they've come to stay. It is actually a calculated movement to force the federal government to create this security. And the reality is, no matter how much the government wants to stop these people, the environment belongs to them, the bush belongs to them, those in water, like in the Niger Delta, the water belongs to them. So they know the area very well. And to stop their operation will be almost impossible, as they would always hide and operate. And we look at issues and we know that there's an urgent need for private and community security management. And how can this management come about? And the federal government really, they need to look at the manpower and strength of the private security sector. There's something I read all the time, we're 5 million, we're 4 million. As long as that data is not credible, I don't think the manpower in the private security sector is up to 5 million until we see data. We believe in credible data when we see the credible data. Yes, we have strength, but it wouldn't be as claimed as 5 million, so to say. So right now, the security, private security should be thinking about legislation. I'm going to talk about regulation a little because when I read about the IG's pronouncement saying, oh, we're going to give space to private security to take over, we're withdrawing the police. The private security, we only have batons and cutlasses. What are we going to do with these things? And so there has to be regulations around it. And thinking about it, we need to sit and draw out how this will work. And in the regulation, update the current legislation and improve on the monitoring responsibility of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. A lot of the tasks that civil defense would like to accomplish is always throttled or stunted by the legislation because they don't have authority to do certain things, and these can later on bring them legal problems. So a good place to begin will be sponsoring legislative bills to the National Assembly. I heard my colleague talking about lobbying. He used that word lobbying, and that's the word to use really here in Nigeria. You have to use the word lobbying, but we need to review the Private Guard Companies Act of 1986. It's well overdue and it does not meet up with the current reality. My take is the experts in the private security industry should meet and look at those clauses that are no longer relevant or effective, because we have some clauses that are not real for today and compatible law with international standards as to meet the needed participation of the private security sector. We have to do that. We have to get to that point where we put down these things and make it work. It's easier to treat symptoms, really. That's what we see around here. It's easier to make budget for symptoms, but we're not making budgets for the root cause. And whereas if the root cause is not dealt with, we're still going to get worse. Like the example of the kidnap that started over 15 years ago. It's even worse now in the Niger Delta. And so we also need to review the legislation, and it should address the problem bothering the private security sector activities and spell out definite responsibility of the private guard companies. And in that manner, you're able to know what our responsibility is and who is responsible for those items. The new legislation should empower the private security sector to be involved in safety training, monitoring, and supervision of surveillance services. Now that you have all the rising paramilitary groups, private security has professionals that can give international standard training to standardize their operation, although the legislation is very, very important. Also, with the regulatory body, the legislation is very important for their supervisory role. They need to update that in the position of power and authority to be able to meet with the present day reality. Yes, we tend to have concerns about them being our regulatory body because of other counterparts. We have situation, or we've read situations whereby they have a board regulating them rather than another security agency. And we need to establish National Survey and Data Collection Center. The association can establish a self-regulatory agency, like as I was saying, or board, and like our other counterparts. And the association, I mean, the lacuna in our regulation omits a lot of the professionals in the security industry. We have to find a way to work together to be able to outline and streamline everything about the private security company. So like the private companies in this shift, we create more employment opportunity and therefore pay more tax directly to the federal government. There are people who operate the security companies without licensing. And so if the monetary agency can go after them and regularize them and regulate them, they can be added into the private security registered or licensed companies, and that would also increase the tax of the government. And we look at investigative activities and intelligence gathering. The private security company should be able to investigate issues affecting national security. My point at this time is we need to also push for the placement of private security activities or private security operations in the national security strategy. After looking at the legislation and regulation, we go into cooperation and partnership. In security, you need partners to be able to fulfill your obligation. We can claim that we're in every local government in this country, and so we have a good stand to negotiate with the government because we cover a lot of all the local places where even the government agencies are not in. We have a good bargaining power. And in recent times, there has been growing movement by the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC. We must commend them because they've been able to foster a relationship with the Association of Licensed Private Security Practitioners of Nigeria. We have been able to achieve certain strides, like my colleague said earlier. We have been able to produce a PSID for each security guard, and each security guard now has a PSID which has details of their fingerprints and other details that you can relate with. So collaborative operations in the National Security Agency for timely intervention and management to avert national disaster. The security company should be trained to be standby. We can be on standby to aid the government agencies in the country. The different security associations, like I mentioned earlier, we have the ISOM, we have ASSEs, we have a lot of them. The private sectors should advocate for that cooperation and partnership with government. And this partnership should be spelled out, like the scope, the mechanism, the command, because there has to be a command center when you're dealing with cooperation, and in the case of cooperation with private security providers. But these also must be spelled out, and it is my opinion that the supervisory body, which is NSCDC, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, in conjunction with the Private Security Association, ALPSPN, and every other security association that is available, should conduct a private security national survey as part of the design work. My last point is that, in my opinion, the supervisory ministry, which is NSCDC in conjunction with the Security Association, should conduct a private security national survey as part of the design work to document the growth and the trends of the industry, thereby where we can continue significantly to have timely information, detailed information, development, especially when considering the increase in the roles played by private security across the country. And in that, I would end with, us having to do that for employee demographics, for budgeting, for private powers, for security operations, and the rest. And so I would like to lastly say that this is not time for politics. This is time to take action, because if we don't address the root cause of all these problems, then the shift might still be shifting to other places. Thank you very much.